Welcome to the Millionaire's Lawyer. Thanks for being here with us today. We've got a real exciting show because we've got Mike Koenigs on. I've been looking to book him for a long time, been a big supporter of his and love all the things he's been doing. He is a 6-time best-selling author, Marketer of the Year, serial entrepreneur, filmmaker, speaker, patent inventor, and founder of Instant Customer and Traffic Geyser. He will tell you that he is all over the place all the time, and you'll hear a little bit more why he says that in just a few minutes. How you doing today, Mike?
It's nice to be here, JP. Thanks.
Well, this is interesting. Just offline before we hit record, you were telling me that you're in a very relaxed and peaceful state, which is obviously wonderful to hear. You, in my lead-in, are well known for doing many different things at many different times. How do you find yourself in a relaxed state these days?
Well, I think the biggest one is about 2 years ago, I made a decision that I was going to completely reinvent myself for, I think, the 7th time. I sold the last business, which was You Everywhere Now. And I designed a business that was 100% lifestyle based and a lot simpler in terms of how it operated. So the fewest moving parts, the highest net profit, least amount of work. I sold my studio, all my equipment. I created a very, very small, extremely tightly focused team. And now I do all my work. I have a place on the beach in La Jolla, California that I bring my clients to. We spend time there. And then I built a really, really cool studio in my home. So my commute now is 30 seconds. And I have focused my entire life around meaningful, high quality experiences with very high-end clients. I take a lot of time off with my family. At the beginning of every year, my wife and I plan our entire year together. So we focus on travel, experiences, our own intimacy, and we have a 17-year-old boy. So really maximizing the time we spend with Zach, our son. And also, I don't do anything I don't like to do. So if it is not an absolute hell yeah or F yeah, it doesn't happen. So I just say no. And that definitely reduces the stress. And I put my body first. So after being a cancer survivor, I do not focus on anything that's stressful or isn't enjoyable and joyful.
You're really, and you've done this thoughtfully as well. I mean, knowing you, you've been through the grinder, right? And as you say, you've gotten sick as a consequence as well. And so you're very consciously sitting back and saying, where do I want to spend my time? How do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend it with? Right. And I know you've been doing that very, very consciously. So again, I appreciate you being here with us today. When you talk about that aha moment or that hell yes moment, what is triggering that for you these days? What are the things that you're saying hell yes to right now?
Well, the biggest one that I love to do is I spent the first 2 decades of my life behind the camera and behind the scenes. I produced for other people. I created content for big brands. So my first agency, we had a digital marketing agency. We had clients like 3M, General Mills, a couple of the biggest and largest agencies in the world, 20th Century Fox and Sony. And it was always about someone else, and which is great. It's fine. And then as I evolved and started learning a lot more and becoming effective, someone asked me if I'd come speak at an event. And that's when I created my very first internet information product. It was called the Infomercial Toolkit. And it came out before video. And so what happened is I started to speak and I found out, hey, I love to speak. And then that started snowballing, and I started doing a lot more video. I really like doing video, and I found that I was actually better than most people were. And the more I practiced, I got better than a lot of people. And I learned how to read a teleprompter, prepare very quickly, create products on the fly, have to go speak sometimes with 30 minutes advance notice. And anything that involved educating, providing value, and maximum impact in the shortest period of time became a fascination. So if you fast forward to now, after having a better than 30-year career, helping people grow their businesses and their platforms and their visibility, what really turns me on now is I do a television show with Entrepreneur Magazine. It's called Elevator Pitch. It's just like Shark Tank, except with a heart. I got asked to do another season of that, so I'll be in season 6. That is an absolute hell yeah. And I think I'm going to start doing even more television. I really love TV. And that goes beyond doing podcasts. And I've got 2 podcasts now, one with my good friend Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach, another one that's coming out soon with an amazing guy, Gay Hendricks, who's the author and creator of The Big Leap and many other books. Um, and so spending time with people like that, highly elevated, experienced sages and wise folks, and then on a client level, the hell yeahs are people who come to me and we recognize each other's superpowers right away, and they're like, I want to collaborate, I want to co-create with you, I would love to reinvent myself and do this in an experiential way. So those are things that absolutely light me up, and I'm sure we'll come up with and discover more as we have a conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I want to talk about both your podcasts. Obviously, an exciting one coming up with Gay, who, the way we began this conversation, very consciously thinking about things, right? As you say, the Big Leap. I think he speaks about that in the Big Leap, and also I think his original success was conscious loving, right? So to be doing things all very consciously focused. And obviously, you do a lot of business coaching with Dan Sullivan in your first very successful podcast. I want to talk about some of the principles you and Dan espouse to business owners who are looking to grow their businesses. I mean, you've grown a number of businesses, sold them successfully in your own right. What are some of the things that you and Dan would say to somebody that's, maybe been operating a business for 5 years, but kind of stuck in a rut, right? They're not doing the things that amplify or take them to the next level. How do you work with people? What kind of advice do you give to people that might be stuck in that rut to take it to the next level?
I think Dan really focuses on something he calls the 4 C's, and this is something where we're totally aligned. It's courage, confidence, commitment, and capabilities, adding to your capabilities. And our podcast is called Capability Amplifier, which in itself, the first time you listen to it, if you don't know what I call Dan language or strategic coach language, you'll be like, capability amplifier, what's that really mean? But through his lens, um, your goal should never be to be stuck in any form of a how. If you're stuck in how mode, that usually causes you, and you're not making progress, it's because you lack those capabilities. And
Hmm.
the end result is you feel resistant, you procrastinate, it drains your energy, it doesn't add to your energy. And Dan has a philosophy about focusing on your unique ability. And he believes that you should only do 3 things maximum and then leave that out. In other words, who it up. Find who's to take care of all the other hows and only do your superpowers or in his case unique abilities. Now my personal language pattern that I use is superpowers because I think sometimes that extends beyond. So for example, my superpower is one of them is being able to very, very, very rapidly listen to someone, understand who they are on a core level, understand their history, focus in on their superpower, and find a way to elevate their personal brand, create it, um, access and activate whatever those are, and then create a super premium brand out of that. That can be a great offer, and then the messaging that goes along with it, and then find the most effective ways that is resonant with that person to amplify it and get the word out. And that might be in the form of a book, a podcast, a show, or whatever feels right. It could be a TED talk. And typically what I do is I have the ability to effectively channel that message, effectively become the client and then become their audience in multiple stages and communicate in a way that will resonate with all of them simultaneously. So as long as I've got someone else with the superpower who I call a synthesizer and an integrator who knows how to grab that stuff as it's coming out of me, structure it and format it, I can literally sit down and build or create an entire platform for someone in a day, come up with a great brand name, the title and subtitle of their book, the chapters of the book, outline their entire speech, their signature talk, or whatever, come up with the products and then excite them enough so they actually gain momentum. And then also what I do now is I bring them in my studio, we interview them and create an entrepreneur article. All that happens in 48 hours. So someone can come through and completely reinvent themselves. So in my case, I figured out a way to utilize all of my superpowers, only do those, surround myself with others who accelerate and amplify that ability, and make it fun and exciting for everyone involved, and profitable for everyone at the same time too. So going back to answering your question, I think the first thing is really know thyself. And that means doing like your Colby Index score, maybe the Enneagram, Myers Briggs, Strengths Finder, whatever tools you feel will help you understand you better. And then enroll in a coaching program or get a business coach or a personal coach. Take great care of your body, and really get yourself in a peak state, because that's where your energy is going to come from. And if you're not healthy, you're no good to anyone. I'm a huge believer in get your primary relationships really focused. Like my wife and I completely reinvented and renegotiated what our marriage meant to each other, got totally values aligned, and had the hardest conversations we'd ever had in our lives about, what we want, what we expect, what we desire, and found the best way of saying, here's what marriage means to us after 18 years together, which a
Wow.
lot of people don't have that raw, difficult conversation of, is this really working? And, for us, it does, and it did. And we're
But
more
you did the
committed
work
now
on it,
than ever
right? You did the
before.
work on it. That's
Yeah.
interesting. You're describing as a first principle, right? So those relationships first. Um, and actually, let's take a second there because that's so interesting. I know those are the types of things that you'll explore a bit more with Gay Hendricks in the podcast. But yeah, first principles first here. Then, in terms of those relationships, obviously with your spouse, probably the most important one, or the very most important one. I know my wife will be listening to this as well, so of course we need to make sure we're focused there. What are some of the things that you lay down as as you say, solidifying those core relationships?
Well, I think the first of all is, some of the things that you can't always control is chemistry, but chemistry is affected by how you show up. So, mine, through my lens, which is as a man, is I wanted to show up in a way that elevated her all the time. In fact, that's precisely what she asked for. She said, "I need you. I want you to elevate me." And that can mean a lot of things. So I really focused on the strength of how I showed up for her, the enthusiasm that I showed up. I also took care of my body. So I got myself in the best physical shape I'd ever been in. And it meant um, really monitoring my diet. I cut out alcohol completely for about 8 months and worked out like crazy. And that's at 53. And after having survived a pretty serious bout with cancer that just about killed me a few years ago, and I wanted to show up, and I asked her questions like, what would totally turn you on? What would activate you and get your juices flowing and make you feel desired and desire me and um, light you up? And I really worked on doing the littlest things. The way I described it is I making the bed every day, um, holding her a certain way. She likes being picked up. And my wife is she's 5'10". She's almost as tall as me, right? So I had to have the ability to do that. And I'd just cradle her and hold her in a certain way. That really activated her. And then the way I showed up as a father to my son, Zach,
Yeah.
really activated her as well. And then being able to plan and have plans for her, and also finding ways that I could support her, in this case with her foundation, that she felt elevated as well, where I should step in, where I should step out. And then we really talked about our values. And so it really came down to a full spectrum conversation, and whether or not I was the man she really wanted and needed in her life, or a partner she really wanted. I mean, everything was on and off the table. And being able to go that scary of a place, because our fear of not being enough, not being good enough, of some form of rejection often causes us to avoid the most difficult conversations. But when you're open and willing to be authentic and and realize that this isn't about you, it's about the other person and what's important to them, that opens you up to a completely different layer and level of a conversation that I think most people never have. Most married
Yeah.
people certainly don't, or people in committed relationships.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I appreciate that answer. My goodness, as you said before we started recording, anything's on the table. I appreciate you sharing that. Interesting for a business podcast, right? We're having these conversations about, well, intimate relationships with our spouses. It does start at home, though, right? A successful business starts at home, and as you say, being authentic and making sure you're addressing things at home first. That allows us to be successful on in a public front as well, or on a business front. I appreciate the, as I say, your answer because again, very authentically, and telling about how you start at home with that. And then you talk about how, I guess, previously working with the business owners, right? And um, it sounds like you have to really know yourself as well, right? And I guess maybe in so doing, understand your own superpowers, where you are good, or you might be good at something, but where you also need help. I assume that you work with a range of people and a range of skill sets as they're building this. And you talk about that personal brand or that brand. If it's somebody that's leading an organization and leading a business, again, same principles. Start at home, be authentic, think about your own branding and the way that you project, but then how you do it in your organization itself for success. How does that translate? How do you then move it from that leader to the leader of an organization to make sure that it flows right through that organization?
Well, in my opinion, so I'm going to use an edge case for a moment, but let's look at Steve Jobs or, for that matter, Elon Musk. Now, they're fascinating people. And in my opinion, now I can't judge this for sure, but I happen to have a little bit of inside knowledge. I can't say exactly why, but I actually have a very good friend who did some very close interactive work with Steve Jobs and his family. And, you know, his personal life was a bit of a wreck. Um, and the DNA, yeah, I just can't say anything more than that without giving away
We've even seen the
the
movies, though,
source,
right?
right?
I mean, it's fairly well
Yeah.
known that he had difficulties in his personal
Yeah,
relationships.
he was a giant jerk. I mean, he really was. He was a total dick to most people around him, and and impossible to work with on several levels. But the DNA of who he was, the best parts came through. And Apple to this day, you could argue, is probably still, or is the most valuable company with the highest probability of long-term value for the foreseeable future. You've got Amazon, you've got Google, you've got Microsoft out there. So it'll probably be Amazon or that, and Bezos as well. Interesting guy, but very strong personal brands, despite the fact he's kind of a jerk. Definitely has screwed up his personal life. Even Elon, very complicated person. It looks to me like his family life, he had multiple divorces, up and down, hasn't done the work on his core person. And I've done a lot of work with quite a few celebrities, some of which who pretend to have amazing lives off the field. And I know for a fact because I know their spouses. And my test of everything, and again, I'm going to make a broad sweeping generalization that I'm going to back off on a little bit. But the first step that I do is if I'm around a celebrity or a famous person, I go straight to the spouse, get to know them really, really as well as possible, and as much as they're willing to open up. I do that by opening up. And I've found very frequently they open up and I'm like, all right, so how's this celebrity stuff working for you? And most of the time, their life sucks. Okay. And their pretend marriage on the surface is not the real one on the back end. And you look at their kids, and if their kids are out of control and they're addicts and there's all sorts of problems, I think there's a balance issue here. Okay. So I'm over answering your question, but and look, you can't control your kids. Some people just get, it's sort of like once in a while you get a bad seed in there and you can't control them. There's just some stuff that goes on. And I believe that there's a lot that can be supported and helped.
Yeah, a lot of the times it's, as you say, from neglect, though, or there is something that's been neglected or you're not paying attention to. And I think, extrapolating based on what you're saying, obviously it starts at home and then it can lead or into business or in the business relationship as well. I know that as a lawyer working with a lot of people, and a lot of times very, very wealthy people, it seems like on its face, everything is all good. But as you say, as you delve in or you look at succession for a business, for example, when the kids can't stand to be in the same room as the business owner, you realize there's some issues there, right? Or some work that needs to be done. And ultimately that affects the family, and the value of businesses. I mean, for the purposes of this business podcast, it affects the actual value of the business as well. So getting your house in order, obviously a very key first step. And then, okay, so let's assume the house is in order, right? And we've done the work, because I hear you saying first principles, do the work. But let's say then you've done that, and the business is chugging along. And let's even think about for the show that you're doing, right? When you're hearing a pitch from a business owner, I'm sure you're weighing up the person, the man or woman that's standing in front of you, and assessing what kind of person they are first. And then you're looking at the business. So what kind of thought analysis, what kind of thought process are you going through as you determine whether or not it's an investment ready or a company you're even willing to work with?
All right. So what I look for is this person, do I feel like they're collaborative and can be co-creative? So I have 5 core values that I think are critically important. So they're creation, co-creation, innovation, what I call energetic leadership, and then finally transformational experiences. I think the combination of those are really important, and they'll never go obsolete, and they're more important now than ever before. And I think creation is obvious. Co-creation is really important. Can I co-create with this person?
Right.
And are they capable of and willing to innovate themselves, their environment, the business they're in, and how those work together? The energetic leadership component comes down to we live in rapidly shifting transformational times in human history right
Yeah.
now, where most businesses, most business models, all of our primary institutions we have trusted in the past are basically extinct already or going extinct. And whether that's healthcare, education, government, certainly our leaders, frauds and complete laughing stocks worldwide. Need I say
Morally
more?
bankrupt, morally
Who
bankrupt.
are
Absolutely.
completely, yeah, morally bankrupt and not brand representative. Our media is a complete laughing stock and a joke. I can continue going on. You look at where social media is. I do not spend time on it because it's a stinking toilet bowl. Now I use it. I will invest in it because I know people are there, but I don't invest any of my own energy or time. I have other
Yeah.
people filtering it. So I who that up. I don't how it any longer. And I can go on and on and on, but I think it's fair to say that in a world of institutional crisis, there's massive opportunity. And I see leadership as being the way out of that. And then finally, transformational experiences. Now, I'm going to go down a little bit of a sidetrack here, but it'll be relevant as we move forward.
We're right there with you. That's cool.
Okay, we're on the edge right now of never not being able to tell what is real and unreal any longer with deep fakes and the ability to create fake people that you can't tell what's real and what isn't real.
Yes.
And that's going to be absolutely weaponized for politics for sure, news, et cetera, et cetera. It already has happened with what happened with Facebook, our election cycles, et cetera, et cetera. And it's only going to get worse. And it means having meaningful, trusted, intimate relationships is now more important than ever before and will continue to do so. So, why does that and how does that affect us? Well, having a strong personal brand of trust will always elevate the value of a business and a brand, even a publicly traded brand. So everyone knows who Elon is. Everyone knows who Warren Buffett is. Everyone knows who U2 is, and the Stones, and I can keep on going down that list. And anything they touch has value. So when you understand how to create a strong personal brand, how to create a strong message or a story that creates an elevated conversation, an elevated experience, or a transformation that's embedded in it, that translates all over into the business itself. And I don't think it's going to be possible in the future for meaningful brands to not have meaningfully branded leaders as well who understand this stuff and know how to communicate within it. So, and another key understanding then is when I'm working with someone, I need to be with someone who, first of all, can resonate with this message, see the future for what it is, It doesn't matter if you like it or you don't like it. It is just an is.
It is the way
And
it
then
is.
be
Yeah.
willing to invest in themselves and evolve rapidly and learn some core skills that are required and or amplify them substantially. So to me, that means being able to work on a personal core offer, because one of the things I love to prepare every executive and leader and individual I work with is what's going to happen when the game is done with you or you're done with the game. I recently spoke at an event with NFL, NBA, MLB players and NHL players too, in a room with one of the largest sporting agencies in the world. It's IMG. And as I was talking to these players, I walked up and I said just that. I said, what are you going to do when you're done with the game or the game
Yeah.
is done with you? Because right now you're standing on a one-legged stool with a noose around your neck and someone or something out of your control, or you can just get damaged and this is over for you. And the most important and valuable thing is to elevate your personal brand now, build
Did they
meaningful
understand that?
relationships.
Did these? I mean, these guys must have an understanding because they
Absolutely. They were
understand they are
so
brands. So many of them
conscious and
are.
open. Yeah. The one thing that I realized as I was sitting there, so I've got a 17-year-old boy. A lot of these guys are in their early 20s. They're just boys. They're in big boy
Yes.
bodies and they're doing big boy things on big boy media, but they're still little boys inside their heads. And they were so open and so raw and ready to receive this. And I was like, yes, these are some leaders. But the next thing that's really, really important is I need to work with someone who's created transformations in their business before that I can work with. So, in other words, let's say if I were working with JP McAvoy right now, I would really drill down and want to talk to you about who is the greatest client you've ever worked with, or who are the top 3 or 5, what kind of businesses or industries, what kind of people are they, and then focusing on your top 2% and creating an offer that appeals to your creme de la creme, your top 2%. I don't care about the 80%. We live in a time that, and I'm not saying that in a cold way. I'm just saying that the communicating to the lowest common denominator is a giant mistake.
Right.
Your goal as a leader is to elevate the 80% to become the 2%, to take those 20% and push them to become the 0.2%, because that's how movements occur. That's how change occurs. It does not come from appealing to the lowest common denominator. And we live in a lowest common denominator world right now. I find it despicable and unclean and filthy. It is energetically impure and it is not valuable for anyone. All of our systems that are decaying and extinct are because our leaders have focused on and messaged to the lowest common denominator.
Right.
I find that extremely unpleasant, unexciting, and I choose to ignore it.
Oh,
So
it's the
the
yeah.
only
Well, you do
people
the
I'll work
opposite, which is
for get
interesting.
that. Pardon me?
Yeah, I can see that you're focused, and actually, that's I mean, such a roundabout way of getting to, um, as you say. I mean, a lot of the things that are occurring are deplorable, and I see you talking about how you want to rise above and you want to bring others to do the same, and it's in part by seeing just that. We discussed the importance of relationships first, first of all at home, but then also amongst colleagues, peers, business people. I'm seeing deal flow between people, as you say, that trust each other. So people that are working together in whatever various business, and sometimes when there's cross investment occurring, when they know each other, they like each other, they trust each other, they're prepared to do business, they're prepared to share business with each other. And so I think it's on the same level as you describe, working with somebody, get them to the spot where they understand what their superpower is, making sure that they are connecting with those that make sense to connect with. And in so doing, raise themselves and the people that they're doing business with, right? Can you tell me? So I loved how you're talking about the JP McAvoy branding, or if we're to brand this, for anybody listening right now as well, to think about what their core business is, what they're good at, and how they can take it to the next level. When you, and I always love how you, on a yearly basis, do annual predictions. When you think about this idea of, and I can tell it's like it's not at the macro level. You're focusing right down to the very essence of what people are doing and how they want to impact things. where are the biggest impacts in the future going to be? It's not social media. I know we plug our nose. We're all there. We plug our nose to a certain extent because you need to have a presence, but it's not social media relationships that get you anywhere. If you throw a party and you invite everybody on your social media, your Facebook page, they're not going to show up. It's the people that are really your insiders, your true people. How do you focus and together raise all of you and your group together at the same time through the branding and through the efforts you're describing here?
Well, I'll give you a couple examples, because I think there are certainly business categories that I'm really interested in that are
Mm,
meaningful. And I'll give you so this is intended to be funny and also to be a little shocking. But when you get down to it, if you understand there are three categories of businesses, products, and services. At the end of the day, they're get paid, get laid, live forever. So it's make
okay.
money, be attractive,
Yeah.
and elevate your relationships. And then living forever is health, fitness. Everything revolves around that. I don't care what it is. You can break it down. Your phone, it can be all three of those. For example, it's one of the reasons why the iPhone is such a powerful gadget. Your computer, health, beauty, whatever. Okay, and I do that because it's easy to remember and it rhymes. So I think the things that matter most right now are transformational technologies that, again, are going to affect our core institutions. So, healthcare and longevity is obviously a huge thing. I think anything having to do with politics and the media ultimately are going to affect the world. I heard Adam Curry said something really, really funny not long ago, which is politics is Hollywood for ugly people. And there's a lesson inside there. First
Yes.
of all, it's funny as hell in my opinion, and
Yes.
quite laughable and true. Look at them. But the other part of it is everything is theater, and the more theatrical, the more interesting, the more entertaining, the more it's going to grip you and allow an opportunity to get formed and forged. And being able to embrace that is difficult for a lot of folks at first, because I can remember one of the first times I was working with Tony Robbins, and he turned to me and he said, only 20% of what I share is actually content, 80% of it's entertainment. And I was offended when he told me that, until I really understood that because he's entertaining, he creates these immersive environments. It enables him to open up hearts and minds long enough to do the
Absolutely.
rest of the work.
Yeah.
And there is value there to realize that first and foremost, the better the entertainer you are, the better chances of your longevity in whatever industry you have is. um, so with all that laid down, ask me the question again and I'm going to directly answer it.
Okay.
But I believe it really came around to where the transformational opportunities. But go
Yeah,
ahead
and I
and
think
answer
I
that
think you
again.
are
That'd be great.
answering it there, Mike. And so to let's say to add on to that, let's say over the next 5 years, how are things going to evolve once somebody has all this in sync, right? They've got this what we're describing here synced up, and maybe they've even worked with you to develop that brand for not just themselves but for their business, right? So in the next 5 years, what is a successful business going to look like in 5 years from now?
All right, I'm going to give you, because it's fun, it's interesting, and it definitely falls in this place. And it elevated the owner's superpowers. So
Great.
last year, I was at one of the events that I go to frequently. It's called Abundance 360. It's put on by Peter Diamandis. Years ago, I helped Peter and his number one, Marisa Brassfield, when they relaunched his first book, which is called Abundance. And I supported them in their digital products, book marketing, et cetera, and built a rapport. And Peter started an event called Abundance 360. It's where they focus on new, exciting technologies, emerging technologies, and they focus on getting you to think about what's your moonshot and your MTP, your massively transformative purpose. Uh, Big ideas, and they've got tech dealing with AI and robotics and all kinds of game changing stuff. And while I was there, we got broken down into groups. And one of the guys I sat next to is this guy named Charlie Epstein. He turned to me and he goes, "You don't know who I am, but I've invested in your things. I've watched you, and I think we should work together." And I go, "Great, tell me a little bit about you." And he said, "Well, I'm a financial advisor, and I'm known as America's 401k coach." And right away, I was like, ah, you couldn't get
Don't
any
mince words
more
here, Mike.
white
Yeah.
and boring and toast and Wonder Bread than this. It's like, oh no, what am I gonna do with this? But we went on, and first of all, he's a very entertaining guy. He's really energetic, and he kind of looks a little bit like Larry David.
Oh, even
That's what he
better.
does
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah. And I said, so let's just brainstorm a little bit and come up with some ideas. And Charlie has a really successful business that manages hundreds of millions of dollars under management. He's been doing 401k related stuff for years, and he's come up with some interesting hooks. And he's reached a point where he's also in strategic coach. So he implements everything that's in there. He takes off over 150 days a year, married to an amazing woman. He's got 2 kids, and he works on, not in his business. So in a lot of ways, he's got a dream business. So I started throwing out some ideas. And I go, what about this? And he goes, I don't want to do that. What about this? He goes, I don't want to do that either. It's just going to make more work. What about this? Nah. It was like, And I asked him a couple more questions, and it turned out he used to have an off-Broadway play, and he did stand-up for a little while, but hadn't touched it in almost 30 years, 25 years. And suddenly I had an idea. I said, Charlie, just give me a couple minutes. I'm going to think about something, make a couple calls. I'll be right back. He goes, all right. So I went out. I called a friend of mine who's a stand-up comedian. He also worked for me for 10 years. Very talented dude. And I said, hey, I need the contact information to a couple comedians who've done television, also do stand-up regularly. And he goes, I think of a couple guys. And then I told him I got an idea, but it involved working with a corporate dude and doing some comedy. And he's like, tell me more. And I made a quick video. I sent it to him and his buddies with the pitch. They all got back to me. And they said, yeah, they'd consider doing it. So I go back to Charlie and I say, all right, Charlie, I got an idea for you. And I'm going to turn this into a game. You got 60 seconds to make up your mind and say yes or no. Either way is fine. He goes, shoot. I go, we're going to create a one-man show. It's about your life and it's about money. And I've already contacted, I've got 3 stand-up comedians who've done television, and we're going to create this one-man show. He goes, done. I'm in. Where do I write the money? Right. Or where do I wire the money?
Yeah.
This is a substantial project. So what we did is I got these 3 stand-up comedians together, my synthesizer integrator, myself, and I've got a place on the beach in La Jolla, California. It's across from the ocean where we do all of our what we call vision days. So we sat down and pulled out Charlie's superpower, genius, stories about his past, how he was born, how he's raised, all kinds of things about money. And then we extracted and worked with him on what he calls the 15 myths about money. And his whole goal in life is to create something he calls desirement, not retirement. And
Environment.
move
I like
towards
that.
that. Yep.
Yeah.
And what we realized is we came that now is called Yield of Dreams. It's a one-man show, and we're actually going to be shooting some content at the Field of Dreams playfield.
Wow.
So we created this great identity and full graphic thing, and we make money funny. So this is an opportunity where people can come learn about money, laugh, get connected. And then at the end, they're all going to raise their hand and go, I want to work with this guy and his team because he gets it. He understands me. Every single story is designed to connect with a particular mindset and a myth and not make you feel stupid, but make you wake up and go, oh, I can actually have the life I've always dreamed of.
Yeah,
So
and that aha you were describing earlier, right? So that's to provide others with that aha by the same token. So they stand up, as you say, put their hand up and say, "I'm here. I want to take part in this."
that's right. And the other part of it that's really exciting is, so Dan Sullivan has been working with Charlie for over 20 years. And Charlie, actually, Dan turned to me and he said, I've never seen in all the time I've been working with Charlie, and I've been telling him for years, you've got to find some way to incorporate that unique ability of yours, that ability to laugh, that ability to do theater. And he said, I haven't seen this guy so happy and so energized about his business and his life than right now. He said, you nailed it. So we wrote his one-man show in 2 days, which is a miracle. And it's an ongoing project now. So like I said, we're recording it. We're now in the process of designing a program so people can actually invest in the show and the play, with that'll have some transformational experiences attached to it that are highly elevated. Be a producer. We'll get this thing on Broadway again. We'll get it in theaters all over the place, and he'll be performing it, but it'll become one of his best lead generators. And it's something that can be replicated and actually brought into any kind of business. There's ways to do sponsorships in addition to the tickets, plus the back end opportunities. And it's a good show. It's not like one of these, not a great idea. Now, can I take anyone and turn them into a comedian and a one-man performer? No, by all means. But this is a fascinating one. But we're doing things like that, getting into what will really light someone up, conditioning them, preparing them to be fully expressed as human beings, live the life of their dreams, make money at the same time. Like I say, get paid, get laid, live forever. It's a combination of like, how do you make it, make your life elevating and elevated. And that was a little miracle. There's no question about it. But I aspire to create experiences like that. It's why I let everything go, because I can make a great living as a boutique creator. And I've experienced the going public business. I've experienced it getting bought by a massive Wall Street corporation. And I'm going to tell you, scaling's overrated. Going public sucks. I don't know one person who said they love it after they've been through it. Not one. And I've known a lot of people have done it. They like
Yeah.
the big check when they get to walk
Yeah.
away. But I think there's a better way to doing it. And all of this scaling and all the pains that go along with that are overrated. And I don't buy into that any longer. I'm like, I'd rather make a great living now, transform lives, create impact, and have a barrel full of fun and look forward to every moment that I wake up and create that with the folks I work with. So that's the way I view it anyway.
No, no, it sounds great, Mike, and you can see it as you describe it. That's a wonderful story. Do please send us information for that. We'll put that in the show notes, because from what you just described, I know that will be launched shortly as well. So please do share that with us. For somebody like that, or somebody that is maybe hearing this now and saying, "Hey, that's for me," or "Mike, I'd like to know more about that," or possibly find out ways of possibly working together with you. What would they need to do? What's the right way to reach out to you and perhaps go down that path with you?
Well, I think the easiest way is I've got a link on my website, and that is just to go to paidforlife.com/vision. And there you can get some information about Vision Day, find out how we can work together. There's an application. And then my main website, which is just paidforlife.com. That's a great place to learn about me. And I'm building right now some more videos that'll guide you through the path of what that looks like. But it's just it's a total blast. I do a couple of them a month. They're very intense. They're an absolute blast, but it allows you to walk away with clarity, confidence, courage, newfound commitment to your primary focus and goal in life. Even if you're, like I say, if you're in a place where you've sold your business and you want to reinvent, it's a perfect place. And then if you're in a place where your business is doing well, but you're not in your state of passion, and there's something bigger, maybe you're undervaluing who you are and what you do. I like to create a premium offer that elevates you. And again, is focused on your 2%, not on the 80%, not on the 20%, and puts you in the 0.2%, puts you and your clients there and attracts those as well. So, and then if you're a corporate exec and you're like, yep, I better get off this one-legged stool. I'm going to continue being an exec. But if the game is done with me, or I'm done with the game, you want to have a place where you can walk away and maybe build a boutique. you can speak, you can work with fewer clients that elevate you, you elevate them, earn probably more than you're netting right now, and work less and have a higher quality of life. Those are usually the three types of people that I'm finding I'm working with, that we really elevate each other.
That's great. So we'll put that some of those details in the show notes as well. And Mike, as you're describing, it's that anybody is going to add value by focusing on the 2%, or the focusing on the areas that they ought to be focusing on. And clearly, that's what you're able to help people do, right? And as you work with people, not a coincidence. We know that you do things on a how should we say this, on an amplified manner, or very quickly, because you put that program together for him in a couple of days, the way you described. And I know you've done that for many people, right? In a matter of days, you can really launch a business or take it to the next level, can't you?
Yeah, if you want, I'll give you one other mini story. There's another gentleman I've been working with. His name's Justin Donald. Met him through some friends. Actually, I met him in Fiji. I was on a bucket list trip, and he's this mellow dude. If I wouldn't have known better, I'd think he's a CPA or something. And it turns out he's this master investor who built a multi 8-figure net worth in just a couple of years, and his first 8 figures in 21 months. Incredible. And I started talking to this guy, and I'm like, I want to know your magic secret sauce here.
What are you
Right
doing here
away, my
exactly?
greed
Yeah.
glands got activated. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, what a genius. And I said, well, do you teach this? Have you ever? And he's like, nah, I just do it for myself. And I started asking him questions about his values and his system and his process. And he's one of these unconsciously competent guys who didn't realize he had a system. And so we agreed to work together. We did Vision Day and pulled out his 10 commandments of lifestyle investing. And what wound up happening in 2 days is we figured out his core message, his core offer, how he can provide education and training and support with people who want to learn his magic secrets. And I say magic because they're not common. And ultimately, we branded him. So it turned out we trademarked Lifestyle Investor. We bought the domain Lifestyle Investor. And then on the second day, I brought him to my studio and did an interview. And the core of it, I ended up titling it. So it got published in Entrepreneur, and it's called Justin Donald is the Warren Buffett of lifestyle investing.
Oh,
Okay.
that's great.
Yeah. So now he's got this highly elevated quote that he says, as seen in Entrepreneur. And it's a great interview. And I extracted his 10 commandments of lifestyle investing. So it's a very heavy content, rich article. But when that article got posted, it showed up in top 10 of Google.
It's going to show up everywhere. And there's instant credibility there as well, right?
Instant credibility, instant elevation, 22 leads in 24 hours. His first lead came in less than an hour after the article got pushed. And then now he's putting together an amazing program for this. But again, we designed offers, the messaging, the book, which is the Lifestyle Investor, and the book's being made as we speak. We outline the chapters so that in one Vision Day, we got the article done and published. We got the whole framework put together. And then the second one, we created a product. So there's a Lifestyle Investor product that we did, as well as more messaging, and also just jumping through some hoops. Anytime you start talking about anything that's money or financially related, there are a significant number of legal concerns. So, we had to go through a fair number of gyrations to make sure we're doing everything on the up and up. But
I like to hear that as a lawyer. I like to hear that, Mike. I appreciate that you're still focusing on that and creating work for us lawyers.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is this is about creating amazing teams. And I, you and I haven't done any projects together, not yet anyway, but I will tell you, I love my attorneys. These are people I hang out with. They are close personal friends. You've got to build relationships. And look, I've dealt with some attorneys, like any kind of business, who are just total scumbags and ambulance chasing bad people who steal money. As far as I'm concerned, they're almost as bad as the government. But but in all sincerity, I want to have amazing teams where we get together, we play together. And I think I mentioned this to you. Maybe I didn't. Like, I take my clients, we go to Paso Robles together. We have a wine trip where we're going to brainstorm and we're going to hang out and we're going to eat impeccable food and have an impeccable experience. We're doing a trip to, we're doing a Warren Buffett bucket list experience. I grabbed a bunch of people and we're going for 3 days, flying in, getting picked up by private jets, staying at a mansion, spending a day talking about money, brainstorming, elevating each other, and then we go to the Warren Buffett annual event. And I think of it like it's like going to see the Rolling Stones and the Beatles in concert at the same time. These
It
guys are
really is, and
old,
it's not
man.
going
They're
to be
not going
around
to be
forever
alive.
either, is it?
No, this might be the last time.
Yeah.
So they're old guys. And I want to create an experience that you can brag about, you think about all the time, you want more of, and find ways of incorporating that in business. And that's what I think business of the future is. It's a combination of lifestyle, it's branding, it's being elevated and elevating someone else. And you can, if you imagine, in most businesses, they almost feel predatory or mercenary. You're looking down, you're selling down. Eventually, you might get to the point where you're selling across, you're selling to a higher level audience, but eventually, one party or the other outgrows the other one. You're not moving at the same velocity. I look up. I want to work with someone who I know for a fact I can elevate and they elevate me. And that's a meaningful relationship. It's a much deeper bond and a friendship where we're co-creating together, we're innovating together, we're creating a transformational experience by working together and ultimately for the people they affect too.
Wow, that's really powerful, Mike. And it sort of comes full circle, right, to the way we began the conversation about meaningful things, right? Things that you feel good about, and in so doing, are doing good in the world, perhaps, and doing good with others, and raising all, or we all collectively are better off. All we all end up in a better place as a consequence of that. That's really powerful stuff. I love your thinking and the conscious way that you're making the decisions. You've done this obviously now, I mean, for a long time, but I can see the shift that's occurred as you do this. You're doing this thinking on your own podcast with Dan and obviously with Gay, right? When we come to see that in the next little while. I believe the same thing. Business is evolving, right? It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game the way you describe. And for good people doing business with each other, they can create a situation where everybody wins. I can tell that you're doing that. I like to end these shows with one thing people can take for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, to take themselves and perhaps others with them to that next kind of level. You've given us about 30 things in this conversation, obviously, Mike. I do appreciate that. But can you leave us with one thing today or one thing now to leave a business owner that might be listening, that might be stuck, that might be in that rut, to think to themselves, if I do this one thing at least today, I will be on the right path, the path that Mike's been describing here?
Yeah, I'll tell you a big idea that is exceptionally powerful. And excuse me, and I use it to differentiate myself. And if you want to stand out, be memorable, recognized, affect someone in a way that really touches them, I never carry a business card. Okay. When I meet someone and they say, "Hey, do you have a business card?" I'll go, "No," because you'll give me a card, I'll give you a card, and then we'll both forget about each other. Nothing's going to happen. Instead, here's what I'm going to do. I pull up my mobile phone, I take a picture of us together, snap, snap, and then I say, "What's your number?" And then I have shortcuts set up that I send like my contact information. And then while I'm at whatever that event is, or as soon as I get back, I follow up with a video. And right now, I don't do written proposals. Okay, someone says, "Hey, will you send me a proposal?" That's really an excuse to, I want to get off the phone and I'm not really going to do business with you and I'm uncommitted. And I'll be like, "No, I don't do that." I'll tell you what I will do. I'll answer any question you have, and then I'm going to follow up with a summary video of what we discussed, and that's going to be my proposal. So what I do, and you and I are seeing each other, and I don't know if you're sending out a video version of this podcast or not, but if you would, I built a really good studio. I work in my studio, so it's always on, and I can always create great content. So what I do, and this is my recommendation, the one thing is follow up with people with short little videos. I don't care if it's with your phone or from a good looking setup, but if it's branded and your brand representative, like if you see me, I'm always wearing a nice shirt, nice jacket, and fun shoes. All right. I'm going to create a fun experience for you. And I'm going to summarize what we discussed, what I propose we do together, and what's going to be exciting about that for both of us. And I'll send that. And I'll tell the story in such a way that it is shareable, and I'm never dependent on someone's inability to tell our story of how we're going to work together to someone else. I set it up in such a way that this person can receive it, and if there's another person who's an influencer or a decision maker in their life, they can go to them, show it to them, and they'll go, I like this guy. He speaks clearly, and I think you should do this. And that creates momentum. And momentum is the most critical part of every connection you ever make. So I would rather go narrow and deep than wide and shallow any day and any time. And I pick who I do this with very selectively. But my hit rate and enrollment rate on people I connect with and follow up with is exceptionally high. And I am extremely expensive to work with because I provide massive value, but also because they see that and they feel it and they feel that way when I connect with them. So my advice is learn this skill, connect with a photo, forget the business cards and focus on deep and narrow. And that will create an elevated experience and get you well on your way to making things happen. And I'm actually making a little video that I'll put on my website that actually documents step by step how I do this, because there's a process and there's a language pattern as well.
Okay, that's fantastic. Can you send us that, or I'll make sure I follow up with you to get that as well. We'll put it into the show notes. But that's great advice. Right there, you're distinguishing as well, right? Or showing something different. As you say, a business card, they get lost, or they're never followed up on. But what you're describing is something much more powerful. Mike,
Yep.
we appreciate all of the advice today. The thoughtfulness that you brought to this. As I say, we got into a few issues. I didn't think we'd get into any marital issues on the Millionaire's Lawyer, but we've managed to do that here today for all the right reasons as well. So thanks so much for sharing with our audience. We appreciate having you on, and we look forward to the next time.
It's my pleasure, JP. Thanks for having me. There.
Excellent.
All right. So I will get you a the link to the audio and the video version of this. Will be super high quality. What's your mobile, just so I have it?
The email address?
No, your mobile, your text.
Oh, 613-552 2333 2333.
Great. All right. So I just texted you right now, and then I will send you a link. I'll text you the link, or email it. Oh, it's coming right now. For some reason, it's taking a little while. It must be an Android. Is it an Android?
Yep.
That's why. For some reason, Apple
doesn't like?
Yeah. Let's see. That's okay. It'll get there eventually. I don't know why these drippy things are so poopy, but it'll get there. It says it's just hanging up for some darn reason. Wow. 613 552 23332. There we go. I'll send it through my phone also.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, there we are. Yeah, it was taking a little while. Maybe it was something on iMessage side. I originally did it through my computer. But yeah, as soon as this is done processing, I'll send you, you'll get the Zoom video, which will be both tracks. They're separate. I always do it that way. And then the, I use a Rodecaster, which is my mixer, and I recorded 2 channels.
Yes, exactly. My producer likes it that way too, right? The 2 channels.
Yep. So they'll be high quality and isolated, and they'll be unprocessed, so your guy can listen through. And there are a couple places where I had a couple coughs I know that aren't the best, but
That was
can't be
good.
perfect all the time, right?
Yeah, that was a great show, Mike. Great show. I really, really appreciate it. So thanks so much. I'll look for that. Is there anything you want me to put on in the notes, in terms of the notes? Is there anything you want me to follow up with Lori with, or?
No, I'll tell you, I'll send over, just so you have it here. This is my bio. Don't put I put all my private contact info in there, but you
I'm
can
not gonna pull that
grab,
up. I know.
there's pre-written copy, all high-res photos of me, everything you'd ever need inside there.
Cool.
And you can use that. That's simple. So anything you need in there is
that's great. No, that's all. That's all. Yeah, your stuff's so good. I mean, you do it well. I mean, I'm learning a lot from you. I have to say, thank you for. And that was a great chat too, because you offer up. There's no difference on camera or off camera with you. Is one thing I noticed, which is that's the way to be. Because when you talk about celebrities and everything like that, it's amazing when you know the switch that occurs with some of these people.
Yeah. No, it's I don't trust anyone who is different off camera. That it's something's off.
Yeah,
there's something wrong, and you know they're hiding something.
Yeah.
That to me is the most important.
But we touched on it too. A lot of times they are quite unhappy as well. A lot of these really wealthy people, a lot of times they're unhappy as well. But
yep, yeah, I have all the stuff I've ever needed or wanted. I don't need more shit.
Yeah.
I like and I want to accumulate more money. There's no doubt about that, because I love financial freedom. It's important and valuable. But the God honest truth is I know I have the ability to go anywhere, create a connection and a relationship, and people want to give me money to be who I am and give them more of who they are.
Yeah. And enjoy it. You can tell that you enjoy it, right? That's the thing. I like that aha conversation we've had, just to enjoy it. And the people we surround each other with. I see people, like I said, sharing deals and sharing things, because there is abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Really, if we all just work with the people we want to work with, we'll all be there if we want to.
Yep.
Very cool.
Right. Well, I'm going to get prepared. I've got another call in just a few minutes, but
excellent.
You, sir, did a fantastic job. You're an excellent interviewer. You asked very thoughtful questions, and you have a great presence and a purity to who you are, which is very apparent. And
that's great, Mike. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. You got it.
We will be in touch. I'm going to send you the book stuff as well from that other thing we talked about. And otherwise, we are rocking and rolling. I will have this up probably. Usually they're about a month and a half out, but I'm going to get yours up right away, just so you know. And I'll send you all the details when it's up and everything.
Perfect. Yep, I'll do that. And then if you want, I'll send you something that I don't know what you prepare in terms of outbounds.
Yep.
I'm going to send you something. I just was on a podcast with Brad Johnson, and this guy did the most amazing job of
cool.
So I just hit send on the doc, and it's actually a great interview too, but more importantly, he just did a fantastic job of how he created the copy, all of the links, all the media, the badges, and all that sort of stuff. It's very professional.
Oh, cool.
We do a pretty good job. Did you
text that as well, or is it?
Pardon?
Did you text that as well?
I just emailed it. So check your email. You'll see it in a sec.
You're a champ. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
By the way, your Gay Hendricks stuff is going to be brilliant, by the way. As you know, like if you're starting to talk, isn't he fabulous?
He's one of the sweetest guys I've ever known. Yeah, he's freaking amazing.
He's done some work up here with. I've met Katie, his wife, like the same thing, right? Yes. Where they're doing their stuff up here a few times, and she's amazing too. Yeah. It's just it's the real deal, right?
Yeah, he is. He's another sage. So I have a few people in my life that are sages like that. One of them is Stuart Emery. He was one of the original founders of Est back in the days. Who's 79 or 89? 79. So I've got my 75-year-old Dan Sullivan, 73 Gay, and then Stuart, who are my sages who I go to and I hang out with, who are just brilliant, fascinating, interesting people. And love them.
That's great. We learn from that, don't we? That's great. Okay.